This is your FastCast for Saturday, September 30th. The top story today, breaking news during Saturday night's 5 o'clock newscast of the government avoiding a shutdown.
The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
That's video of the House passing a stopgap measure Saturday that would later in the day be approved by the Senate, avoiding a government shutdown. The threat of a federal government shutdown suddenly lifted late Saturday, hours before a midnight deadline, as Congress approved a temporary funding bill to keep agencies open and sent the measure to President Joe Biden to become law. The rushed package drops aid to Ukraine, a White House priority opposed by a growing number of GOP lawmakers, but increases federal disaster assistance by $16 billion, beating Biden's full request. The bill funds the government until November 17th. After chaotic days of turmoil in the House, Speaker Kevin McCarthy abruptly abandoning demands for steep spending cuts from his right flank and instead relied on Democrats to pass the bill, at risk to his own job. The Senate followed with final passage, closing a whirlwind day at the Capitol. It's been a sudden head-spinning turn of events in Congress after days of House chaos pushed the government to the brink of a disruptive federal shutdown. The outcome ends, for now, the threat of a shutdown, but the reprieve may be short-lived. Congress will again need to fund the government in the coming weeks, risking a crisis as views are hardening, particularly among the right flank lawmakers whose demands were ultimately swept aside, this time in favor of a more bipartisan approach. If no deal was in place before Sunday, federal workers would have faced furloughs. More than 2 million active duty and reserve military troops would have had to have worked without pay, and programs and services that Americans rely on from coast to coast would have begun to face shutdown disruptions. The package funds government at current 2023 levels until mid-November and also extends other provisions, including for the Federal Aviation Administration. The package was approved by the House 335 to 91, with most Republicans and almost all Democrats supporting. Senate passage came in at 88 to 9 on Saturday's vote. But the loss of Ukraine aid was devastating for lawmakers of both parties, vowing to support President Volodymyr Zelensky after his recent Washington visit. The Senate bill included $6 billion for Ukraine, and both chambers came to a standstill on Saturday as lawmakers assessed their options. After leaving his conservative holdouts behind, McCarthy is almost certain to be facing a motion to try to remove him from office, though is not at all certain there would be enough votes to topple the speaker. Most Republicans voted for the package on Saturday, while 90 opposed. The White House was tracking the developments on Capitol Hill, and aides were briefing the president, who is spending the weekend in Washington. The House's quick pivot comes after the collapse Friday of McCarthy's earlier plan to pass a Republican-only bill with steep spending cuts up to 30% to most government agencies that the White House and Democrats rejected as too extreme. The federal government was heading straight into a shutdown that posed grave uncertainty for federal workers in states across America and the people who depend on them, from troops to border control agents to office workers, scientists, and others. Families that rely on a Head Start for children, food benefits, and countless other programs, large and small, were confronting potential interruptions or outright closure. At the airports, Transportation Security Administration officers and air traffic controllers are expected to work without pay, but travelers could face delays in updating their U.S. passports or other travel documents. An earlier McCarthy plan to keep the government open collapsed on Friday because of opposition from a faction of 21 hard-right holdouts, despite steep spending cuts of nearly 30% to many agencies and severe border security provisions. The White House has brushed aside McCarthy's overtures to meet with Biden after the speaker walked away from the debt deal they brokered earlier in the year that set budget levels. At an early closed-door meeting at the Capitol, several House Republicans, particularly those facing tough re-elections next year, urged their colleagues to find a way to prevent a shutdown. The lone House Democrat to vote against the package on Saturday Representative Mike Quigley of Illinois, the co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus, said, quote, "Protecting Ukraine is in our national interest." And in a local story on Saturday afternoon from 1 to 3, the Alaskan Native Heritage Center hosted a 5K event to honor missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The event, called Run for Healing, Run for Justice, was meant to raise awareness and help the community heal. Participants could honor someone special by adding their names to their bibs and dress up in red, the color that symbolizes MMIWG2S. They could also join as a team or pair up with others. The event was co-hosted by MMIWG2S Alaska Working Group, which consists of 5 organizations that work to support and advocate for Indigenous people. The event was a powerful and meaningful way to show solidarity and respect for the lives of murdered Indigenous women and girls. This has been your FastCast for Saturday, September 30th. Tune in for the news at 10 Saturday night, and thank you so much for watching.